also need a Linux swap partition. We can create a partition using the same process as we used to create the partition for Ubuntu, except we set this file system type to Linux swap. The size would be at least as large as the memory in the computer. In this case, my swap partition is slightly larger than the 8 GB of memory in this computer. We then select the location for the bootstrap. Here I am selecting /dev/sdb to put the bootstrap on the master boot record of the second drive. Again, verify the partition for Ubuntu looks correct. Verify the location for the bootstrap is correct. When all is correct, we can click the Install Now button. Again, this is the point where we commit to installing Ubuntu. Otherwise, we still have the option to use the Revert button. This will undo all of our proposed partition changes. Alternatively, we can click the Back button to return to the step before the partitioner. Or as a last resort, we can click the Quit button and abort installation entirely. Here we are at the next step in the installation. We are asked where in the world we are located. This is to set our time zone. Typically, the installer will correctly guess our time zone from our internet IP address. Sometimes this doesn't work because our IP address is outside of our time zone. The selected city for the time zone is indicated by the red dot. We can change this by clicking on the map to approximate the location for another city. Alternatively, we can enter the name of a major city in our time zone. When the correct time zone is shown on the map, click the Continue button to proceed to the next step. At the next step, we are asked who we are. We set up the primary user and set the computer name. For your name, enter the user's full name. This can be either just a first name or first and last name. Basically any name to identify the user. The computer name is the unique name by which the computer will be identified by on our local network. The installer will automatically generate a name from your name. Generally, I set this to a more meaningful and memorable name. The username will be the user's login name, the short name by which the user will be known as on the computer. Usually just your first name or a nickname, but anything unique and memorable works. We need to enter a password for the user. Again, this should be something easily remembered. Generally, for a local computer, something easily remembered is more important than security. However, for a server on the internet, security is of prime concern. Then the password should be long and not easily guessed. A mix of 10 to 15 capital, lowercase, number, and selected punctuation characters provides the best security. We are asked to type in the password a second time. The two entered passwords must match. A check to make sure that we didn't mistype the passwords. We have the option of being logged in automatically each time we boot. With this option selected, we won't be asked to enter our password to log in. The alternative here is require my password to log in. We must enter our password each time we boot the computer or log in. This is the default. The last option is to encrypt your home directory. Each user is provided with their own home directory to store files uniquely owned by them. I would advise against checking the box on this option. Unless you are overly concerned about security, this encryption is a nuisance. Should you forget your password, or there's a problem with the disk drive, you won't be able to recover your files in your home directory. I have entered all of my information. At this point, we should verify all is correct. Note that the green check marks indicate that the required field has been satisfactorily filled in. This doesn't mean it is necessarily correct. Note the warning that my password is weak. Since this is for my own local computer, I am not concerned about that. When all is correctly entered, click the Continue button to proceed to the next step. At the next step, we set up Ubuntu One. Ubuntu One is an online storage service provided by Canonical, the company that supports Ubuntu. The first 5 GB of storage are free. Beyond that, there is a reasonable monthly fee. Ubuntu One is useful for backing up some important files online. There is a feature that will keep files synchronized between our computers and mobile devices. We can also stream music to our mobile devices. You need to set up an account to use the service. You can create an account online, or for convenience, an account can be created at this install step. Ubuntu One is optional. You can skip this step. Simply click on the Log In Later button to skip over Ubuntu One. You still have the option to set up Ubuntu One after we have Ubuntu installed. Otherwise, to set up Ubuntu One, enter your email address. If you previously set up an Ubuntu One account, be sure to use the same email address. The default here is I am a new Ubuntu One user. Selecting this allows you to create a new account. Alternatively, if you already have an Ubuntu One account, you can select the option I am a returning Ubuntu One user. If you already have an Ubuntu One account, enter your password. When you are ready to set up Ubuntu One, click the Continue button. Again, if you prefer not to set up Ubuntu One, click the Log In Later button. Either way, we will proceed to the next step. We are now done with the interactive part of the installation. We have entered the phase where we can sit back and wait for it to finish installing Ubuntu. Once we hit the Install Now button, the installation was started. While we were entering information in the past 3 steps, it was installing Ubuntu in the background. It wasn't just sitting idle, waiting on us. To keep us entertained while we wait, we are presented with a slideshow highlighting Ubuntu features. There are forward and back buttons for the slideshow if we want to manually navigate through the slides. At the bottom of the window we see a progress bar and messages, which keeps us informed of how the installation is proceeding. Here we see it is downloading language packs, which is going to take 1 minute and 44 seconds to complete. Through the miracle of time-lapse, we move quickly through the installation. At this point, the installation is nearing completion. Here the installer is looking for other operating systems to configure the menu for the Grub bootloader. A little further along, the installer is cleaning up temporary files. About 10 minutes after we complete the interactive part of the installation, we come to this step. The installation has completed. We are ready to restart the computer to boot up our new Ubuntu installation. Click on the Restart Now button. This will reboot the computer and allow us to boot up Ubuntu.